You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, along with my co-host, Dr. Jen Schwanke, for another episode of Monday Matters. You can listen to our flagship show, Principal Matters, on Wednesdays and our encore episodes on Fridays. But Jen, Mondays are our time to just catch up, talk about what's going on in our lives. But I've also been sharing some feedback from my new book, Whose Permission Are You Waiting For? An Educator's Guide to Doing What We Love. But you're getting ready to hit the road soon because ISTE is coming up. And then I think you're at the United Conference in Seattle this summer. So give us an update on Jen Schwanke.
Yes, there's a lot going on. I'll be in San Antonio for ISTE and ASCD. I'll be in Seattle for United. And then I've started some work with ISTE and ASCD. They're really looking to reinforce and bolster their instructional leadership arm, so to speak. We really want to scoop in those chief academic officers, those people who really don't have a home. And that's something I'd love to talk about in an upcoming Monday Matters. But I'll be doing some traveling for ISTE and ASCD to try and make sure that we're touching those people who are really, really responsible for the instruction, teaching, and learning. So that's exciting. Lots of good things going on.
That makes me so happy. Well, I'll just give a few quick shout outs. Because I get to do this work full time, Jen, I'm wrapping up a lot of training that I've done. So I want to say thank you to my team out in Palo Alto, California. I've worked with all year in coaching with a group down in Pecos, Barstow Toya ISD in Texas. We've just wrapped up another year of a Grow Academy together. I've been working with the Archdiocese of Louisville, Kentucky, and their principals across their Catholic schools, and I'll be jumping into some leadership time with them in July. And then you and I got to do a series with Sanies up in New York together with several of our other friends. And that was just such wonderful work. And I've just also had an ongoing partnership with, in your state, in Ohio, with a lot of their schools through their Office of School Sponsorship. And so a lot of those principals and I've been together now for several years doing masterminds. So thank you to everybody out there that I've been able to work with. I'm not going to mention everybody I coach, but at the time of this recording, I'm getting ready to head to Utica Shale, which is a high school that is set up as a career tech center in a really small rural area of in Ohio. And man, Jen, every time this will be my second time to go there, and it's just one of those wonderful schools that just keeps growing and growing and growing, giving kids opportunities to just have hands-on industry training while they're in high school. And then I'll see you out in Seattle. So I'm just so excited this summer. So anyone that's going to be traveling out to any of those conferences, please reach out to Jen or me. And if you're going to be in Seattle and we would have an opportunity to maybe see you together, let us know, because we would just love to pull together and get a coffee or a drink or just say hi. So you can always reach us at our email addresses at will@williamdparker.com, or Jen, what's your email address?
Yep, they can reach me anytime at jen@jenschwanke.com. And Will, as you were talking about all the things that you're doing and the things I've got in the coffer too, I was thinking about that. We heard from someone who said something along the lines of, we really want some input from various types of schools. And as you were talking, I was hearing parochial schools, I was hearing independent schools, I was hearing charter schools, I was hearing public schools, I was hearing career tech schools.
Yeah.
And so here's what's important about that is the work that we're doing, even if we feel like it's unique and nobody else is doing it, there are so many parallels to leadership in schools. And so regardless of what type of school you have, reach out to us, because I'm willing to bet a nice big old bill that you and I have worked with leaders of a school like that. So reach out, use those email addresses.
No, I'm so glad you said that, because it's true. And we have so much more in common than we have different. And when it comes to leadership, and I'll just say this, Jim, we didn't plan to talk about this, but especially when I'm coaching leaders one-on-one, it doesn't matter what the title is. It's the same things that come into those conversations when it comes to problem solving, people, situations, systems changes.
Right.
I could remove all the titles, and it's the same topics that are coming into those conversations time after time after time.
I just finished up a coaching session with someone who could not be more different than me in terms of what her daily work looks like. But we didn't even, you couldn't fit a breath in between the things we talked about because the work is so similar. And so on a piece of paper, it looked like her day is very different than mine, but it really wasn't. We found so many ways to connect.
I love that. Well, I wanted to take just a moment today as we step into this Monday because the heart of the new book I wrote is one that's called "Whose Permission Are You Waiting For?" And I might take this a little different direction than listeners would expect. I start off that chapter by telling the story of a good friend of mine, Frederick Buskey, who invited me to go hiking with him a couple of years ago in Asheville, North Carolina, or in that area. And I've been back since. But one of my favorite memories was standing in front of this just beautiful waterfall. And you know how when you're in a place where the rocks are shimmering like specks of fool's gold, and you're just like, it's just one of those moments that's been imprinted in my mind. That moment happened because I took a risk. I was out presenting in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time, and Frederick and I were trying to figure out some way we could connect while I was in that part of. So we just decided, well, let's go on a hike. And so he's a avid backpacker, and I'm not. But I said yes, and I'm so glad I did because it's a memory that those memories you always hold on to because they were just so meaningful, and we've developed such a great friendship. But when I think about the journeys that all of us are on, and they're all different, even though we all have a different journey. Mine's not yours isn't mine, Jen. But there's some similarities, just like we said, with leadership in our journeys too. I think the heart of what I try to get across in this chapter in the book is sometimes the biggest barriers to doing that thing that you want to do or that thing you know you're going to love isn't someone else. It isn't a system. It isn't an institution. It isn't a budget. It isn't the kind of kids you have. It is, or students that you have. It a lot of times it's ourselves. And so one of the things that I have found myself saying over and over and over again to leaders, especially in our coaching sessions where someone is really trying to get focused on the challenge they're facing, what it is that they really want to accomplish. And then they get clarity, like they can see, oh, this is where I want to go. Now, I don't always do this, but occasionally we'll stop there and I'll just say, well, whose permission are you waiting for? And they'll realize the only person's permission they're waiting for is their own. And so one of the things I wanted just to bring out in today's conversation is that, and this is a really good time of year for people to be thinking about their summer, thinking about transitions, thinking about their futures. And one of the reasons I brought that metaphor in about the hike is there is a knowing what your values are, your purpose, the thing that brings you joy is so important to plug into the work that you're doing. And for lack of a better way to say it, Jen, because you want to avoid fool's gold. You want to avoid the something that looks shimmering and glamorous or really attractive may not be the thing that brings you joy. But when you are able to plug the things that you care deeply about and the purpose that you have into something that matches the work matches that kind of passion, man, there's just something really wonderful about that. And I want people to be able to experience that in their work and in their lives. And I think part of the solution is beginning with giving yourself permission to do those things that you know are going to bring you joy.
Right. And I'm glad that you took the time to advise to avoid that fool's gold. I do
Mhm.
see people sometimes doing that. They're thinking really about their own professional journey and what they want to do or don't want to do. And they're looking at some really, really green grass on the other side of the fence and they take a plunge and then they think, wow, that grass was not greener.
Mhm.
I think it's important to, as you've said multiple times, think about truly what needs changed and why it needs changed. And we recorded an earlier episode where you went through some very specific steps that might be taken before taking a plunge like that. And I just think that's important. It's responsible. Most of us have, we're accountable not only to ourselves, but to our families and friends and such. So we got to avoid those missteps.
Well, let me just take a moment and just offer some questions for listeners to reflect on. So, leaders, you you may be already doing the thing that you love. And I think it's important for us to every day, right where we're planted, to look up and look around and go, wow, there's something beautiful happening right in front of me. So let me make sure I'm present to enjoy it. But if you're also feeling that, sometimes you feel that itch or that longing to try something new or different, then let me just ask you to reflect on these things. What are some places where you dream about growing? It's okay to do that. Two, if you were to set some new goals for yourselves and they were generous and audacious, what kind of goals would you set? Three, when you think about where you would like to be in the next year or 5 years or 10 years, what would you say the most ideal outcomes would be for those kinds of goals? Four, now let's just be honest with yourself. Whose permission are you waiting for to take the next steps towards those goals and dreams? And what would happen if you gave yourself permission to do something about it? And so Jen, I'm not saying any of this because it's like a magic formula or it's like a self-help gimmick or trick. This chapter is really the heart of why I wrote this book, because I just believe that sometimes, I don't know, we just need a friend alongside of us to just remind us that you can do something about the things that you really want to experience in your work and life.
Absolutely. And this is, again, this can be a personal journey. It can be a personal and professional journey, or it can be professional only. I think if you're listening to this as you're driving to work, it might help to think about what is it that you want for your school, for your community, for your teachers, for your students, and what barriers are you putting up or already exist that you might need to knock down.
Well, as we wrap up, there's going to be a few people listening that are still in school for a few days. So let me just apply this to those of you that are wrapping it up and maybe you still have kids there. And let's make it really practical. What are some things that you can do in your own thoughts, in your own emotions, and in your own actions to try to end school with the same kind of passion and commitment that you began it with? Because, man, Jen, there's something that happens. And I had to do this to coach myself up like this each year, because in my earlier years, I just was like, just get it over with. And then I finally started kind of recognizing, like, wow, what am I communicating to the rest of my team and my kids if that's the way I'm approaching their final days? So I started asking myself that question: how do I want to end? What's my commitment to end as high as we began? And there's just something that happens in your own mind when you give yourself permission to just be present, and even with the craziness, to try to enjoy as much as you can from those last moments.
I walked by a playground yesterday. It was a beautiful day. The sky was so stinking blue. And there were, I think, 600 kids outside finishing up some sort of field day. There were balloons, there were bubbles, there was water, there was balls, there were music, music, music. And I talked to the principal after, and she was exhausted. She was almost limping, but she said, "Listen to this. Just listen to this happiness and this joy." And we both pulled out our phones and we recorded the audio, because again, it was the screaming, it was the bouncing, it was the popping, it was the all the things. And I said, "Let's listen to this together next February when it's cold and dark and rainy and we're like, what are we doing with our lives? Let's listen to this again," because these sounds just captured such joy. And that's the things that I want our listeners to say, okay, let me go out and find something I can record that just captures the sound. It's like bird song, but children.
Oh, Jen, that just makes me so happy. Thank you for ending there. And Principal Matters listeners, as you step into today, give yourself permission to be in the moment, to listen for those sounds, to just recognize what it looks like to do school through the eyes of your own kids. And then give yourself permission to enjoy your break, because you deserve it. So until next time, thank you for doing what matters, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.